During the whole of a dull, dark, and soundless day in the autumn of the year, when the clouds hung oppressively low in the heavens, I had been passing alone, on horseback, through a singularly dreary tract of country, and at length found myself, as the shades of the evening drew on, within view of the melancholy House of Usher. I know not how it was, but, with the first glimpse of the building, a sense of insufferable gloom pervaded my spirit. I looked upon the scene before me, upon the mere house, and the simple landscape features of the domain. Upon the bleak walls, upon the vacant eye-like windows, upon a few rank sedges, and upon a few white trunks of decayed trees, with an utter depression of soul, which I can compare to no earthly sensation more properly than to the after-dream of the reveller upon opium, the bitter lapse into everyday life, the hideous dropping off of the veil. There was an iciness, a sinking, a sickening of the heart, an unredeemed dreariness of thought which no goading of the imagination could torture into awe of the sublime. What was it, I paused to think, what was it that so unnerved me in the contemplation of the House of Usher? It was a mystery all insoluble, nor could I grapple with the shadowy fancies that crowded upon me as I pondered. I was forced to fall back upon the unsatisfactory conclusion that, while, beyond doubt, there are combinations of very simple and natural objects which have the power of thus affecting us, still the analysis of this power lies among considerations beyond our depth. Acting upon this idea, I reined my horse to the precipitous brink of a black and lurid tarn that lay in unruffled lustre by the dwelling, and gazed down, but with a shudder even more thrilling than before, upon the remodelled and inverted images of the grey sedge, and the ghastly tree stems, and the vacant and eye-like windows. In this mansion of gloom, the House of Usher, I now proposed to myself a sojourn of some weeks. I scanned more narrowly the real aspect of the building. Its principal feature seemed to be that of an excessive antiquity. The discoloration of ages had been great. Minute fungi overspread the whole exterior, hanging in a fine tangled webwork from the eaves. Yet all this was apart from any extraordinary dilapidation. No portion of the masonry had fallen, and there appeared to be a wild inconsistency between its still perfect adaptation of parts and the crumbling condition of the individual stones. In this there was much that reminded me of the speculative totality of old woodwork, which has rotted for long years in some neglected vault, with no disturbance from the breath of the external air. Beyond this indication of extensive decay, however, the fabric gave little token of instability. Perhaps the eye of a scrutinizing observer might have discovered a barely perceptible fissure which, extending from the roof of the building in front, made its way down the wall in a zigzag direction until it became lost in the sullen waters of the tarn. Good evening. I'm Fitzwilliam McKenzie. Lord Usher is expecting me.
Good evening, sir. Please, follow me. His lordship is in the drawing room. Do not worry about your horse. Our groom will take care of it.
Roderick Usher had been one of my boon companions in boyhood. We used to spend many hours in this parlor. I remember his merry brown eyes and his gentle smile. But many years had elapsed since our last meeting. A letter from Usher had lately reached me in a distant part of the country which, in its widely importunate nature, had admitted of no other than a personal reply. It was the manner in which all was said, the apparent heart that went with his request, which allowed me no room for hesitation, and I accordingly obeyed forthwith what I still considered a very singular summons.
Mr. Fitzwilliam McKenzie has arrived, my lord.
I have received your letter, Roderick. I came here as quickly as I could.
Oh, Will, thank goodness you're here at last. I know not what I would have done if she was already. Oh no, I can't even think about it. But I shall cast away this dreary thought, for you are finally by my side.
My dearest friend, what happened to you? You seem utterly distressed. It was with difficulty that I could bring myself to admit the identity of the man being before me with the companion of my early boyhood. Yet the character of his face had been at all times remarkable. A cadaverousness of complexion, an eye large, liquid, and luminous beyond comparison. Lips somewhat thin and very pallid, but of a surpassingly beautiful curve. A nose of a delicate Hebrew model, but with a breadth of nostril unusual in similar formations. A finely molded chin, speaking, in its want of prominence, of a want of moral energy. Hair of a more than web-like softness and tenuity. These features, with an inordinate expansion above the regions of the temple, made up altogether a countenance not easily to be forgotten.
Oh, but I am fine, really. You should not worry about me. Besides, now that you are here, my shadows will vanish, and my spirits will lift at once.
Roderick, stop this. What is going on? I felt that I breathed an atmosphere of sorrow. An air of stern, deep, and irredeemable gloom hung over and pervaded all. Although as boys we had been even intimate associates, yet I really knew little of my friend. His reserve had always been excessive and habitual. I was aware, however, that his very ancient family had been noted, time out of mind, for a peculiar sensibility of temperament, displaying itself, through long ages, in many works of exalted art, and manifested, of late, in repeated deeds of munificent yet unobtrusive charity, as well as in a passionate devotion to the intricacies, perhaps even more than to the orthodox and easily recognizable beauties, of musical science.
Pardon the intrusion, gentlemen. I have something to discuss with Lord Usher.
Oh, come on. He can be trusted. He is almost family. Speak out.
It is about your sister, sir. The disease of the Lady Madeline had long baffled my skills as a physician. As you know, a settled apathy, a gradual wasting away of the person, and frequent, although transient affection of a partially cataleptical character were the usual diagnosis. Since yesterday, she had experienced an astonishing, yet miraculous, change.
What do you mean by change? I guess you're not telling me everything, as usual.
My intention is not giving hope, sir, but to express concern about this sudden recovery. I would so much like to be wrong, but in most cases, an outburst of life can only mean how close we are from an impending doom.
Nonsense! Get out! Get out of my sight!
But, sir,
I am not paying you for that. You are dismissed.
I beg your pardon, my lord. The Lady Madeline wants to see you directly.
Go fetch her. I would like to introduce her to my guest.
As you command, my lord.
In the manner of my friend, I was at once struck with a glimpse of understanding. To an anomalous species of terror, I found him a bounden slave. He had buried his face in his hands, and I could only perceive that a far more than ordinary oneness had overspread the emaciated fingers through which trickled many passionate tears. Are you all right, Roderick?
Her disease will leave me. Oh, I cannot even conceive it. Me, the hopeless and the frail, the last of the ancient race of the Ushers. It is a constitutional and family evil, and one for which I am despaired to find a remedy by any means necessary.
While he spoke, the Lady Madeline, for so was she called, passed slowly through a remote portion of the apartment, and without having noticed my presence, started to play the piano. I regarded her with an utter astonishment, not unmingled with dread, and yet I found it impossible to account for such feelings. A sensation of stupor oppressed me as my eyes followed her fingers through the instrument. All in black, she displayed the countenance of a dreary angel. When the song finished, Usher burst into an effusive applause without arising from his armchair and said,
As always, exquisitely executed. May I introduce you, my dear, to Mr. Fitzwilliam McKenzie. He's an old friend of mine.
Pleased to see you again, Miss Usher.
You can call me Madeline, Mr. Mackenzie, like in old times.
Madeline it is, then. You played wonderfully, by the way. I must confess, I have never witnessed a performance of Schubert's music as impetuous as yours. You're quite a prodigy, indeed.
Very much obliged, sir. It was not always so easy. Years ago, I was terrified of Schubert.
Terrified, you say? How can that be possible?
You see, Mr. Mackenzie, it's quite simple. Allow me to enlighten you with an analogy. I once feared the dark. The lack of sight terrified me. A good friend of mine told me that I should love and cherish it, because one day I might find the darkness to be my only friend. At first, I dismissed her reasoning, thinking it to be folly. The times when all light was gone were cold, and I never knew what was around me because I was blind. I was blind to the beauty around me, the beauty of feeling, hearing and breathing in my surroundings. This, now I see, is the truth. The darkness is warm and comforting. What I did not know before was the potential it held. The beauty of imagination, of seeing in my mind's eye the wondrous things I both crave and dread. The gloom is soft, cozy and soothing. Beautiful and terrible demons dance around me when I play, urging me to explore this new world. And I live to serve it, sir, to continue surviving underneath its depths. And now, if you excuse me, I shall attend to my brother. Hello, brother. I wanted to talk to you. There's something I want to discuss with you.
As a closer and still closer intimacy admitted me more unreservedly into the recesses of Roderick's spirit, the more bitterly did I perceive the futility of all attempt at cheering a mind from which darkness, as if an inherent positive quality, poured forth upon all objects of the moral and physical universe in one unceasing radiation of gloom. One of the phantasmagoric conceptions of my friend's sister, partaking not so rigidly of the spirit of abstraction, may be shadowed forth, although feebly, in words. Little I know that the glimpse I had obtained of her person would thus probably be the last I should obtain, that the lady, at least while living, would be seen by me no more. I shall ever bear with me a memory of the many solemn hours I thus spent alone with the master of the House of Usher. We painted and read together, or I listened, as if in a dream, to the wild improvisations of his speaking guitar. Among other things, I hold painfully in mind a certain singular perversion and amplification of the wild air of the last waltz of von Weber. His long, improvised dirges will ring forever in my ears. But the fervid facility of his impromptus could not be so accounted for. They must have been, and were, in the notes as well as in the words of his wild fantasias, for he not unfrequently accompanied himself with rhymed verbal improvisations. The result of that intense mental collectedness and concentration to which I have previously alluded as observable only in particular moments of the highest artificial excitement. I particularly remember one of these rhapsodies, the haunted palace, and the discussion that followed. His opinion, in its general form, was that of the sentience of all vegetable things. I lack words to express the full extent or the earnest abandon of his persuasion. The belief, however, was connected, as I have previously hinted, with the grey stones of the home of his forefathers. The result was discoverable, he added, in that silent, yet important and terrible influence which for centuries had moulded the destinies of his family, and which made him what I now saw him, what he was. I tried to dismiss Roderick's delirium with no success at all. However, I could not dispose of a disturbing feeling that grew as the days go by. On the 7th night of my arrival, I was informed that the Lady Madeline succumbed, as her brother told me, at night, with inexpressible agitation, to the prostrating power of the destroyer. Roderick was devastated. In between sobs, he stated his intention of preserving her corpse for a fortnight, previously to its final interment, in one of the numerous vaults within the main walls of the building. I personally aided Usher in the arrangements for the temporary entombment. The vault in which we placed it was small, damp, and entirely without means of admission for light. It had been used, apparently, in remote feudal times for the worst purposes of a dungeon keep, and in later days as a place of deposit for powder or some other highly combustible substance. It was completely isolated. The door of massive iron had been also similarly protected. Its immense weight caused an unusual sharp grating sound as it moved upon its hinges.
Bloody grave robbers. That is the reason why we built this crypt. Our family mausoleum, back in the gardens, is too exposed. Besides, I do not trust our staff. They can easily be bribed.
I am sorry to put it like this, but, Roderick, why would anyone want to steal a corpse?
Have you not heard the physician? They are oddly interested in Madeline's condition. When she passed away, the first thing he requested, that shameless bastard, was to dissect her in order to explore the cause of death. Can you imagine such an insolence? The second after she died, my poor, dearest Madeline, he wanted to break her fragile body apart, like a pig. In the name of science and progress, he said. I tremble at the mere thought of that.
Do not worry, my friend. I will not let anyone enter this crypt. To preserve her memory and your family name, I am at your service during your mourning, so take all the time you need.
Thank you, Fitzwilliam. Your company is the only thing that can comfort me now. Even in death, she retains an otherworldly beauty. Her cheeks have a faint blush. She looks so alive. And she is smiling, like if she was subsumed in a pleasant sleep and could wake up at any time.
Do not fool yourself, Roderick. It will only hurt more when you part.
I know, Fitzwilliam. But she was so young. If only we had had more time.
Remember those verses from Pindar. Seek not, my soul, the life of the immortals, but enjoy to the full the resources that are within thy reach.
I do not have my mind set on Greek tragedies right now, as I have my own tragedy to cope with. You do not know what it is like, Fitzwilliam. You have never lost a sibling. Madeline was a twin sister, and with her death she left me hopeless, and she took a half of my soul. I am deeply sorry, my friend. I have been under a lot of stress lately, and I did not weight my words. I beg your pardons for my behavior.
Come on, Roderick. Do not bother about it. I understand. Shall we return upstairs? Let us have a cup of tea. You can play your guitar as well, if you want. It will ease your soul. We replaced and screwed down the lid, and having secured the coffin, made our way, with toil, into the scarcely less gloomy apartments of the upper portion of the house. This place is right beneath my room, am I wrong? Roderick, are you listening? Are you coming?
What? Yes. What have you said? I thought I heard something inside the vault.
Must be the rat sliding around some corner. This place is dark and huge. Come on, my friend. The lack of fresh air is smothering, and your mind is playing tricks on you. That is all.
You are right, as always.
Some days of bitter grief having elapsed, an observable change came over the features of the mental disorder of my friend. His ordinary manner had vanished. His ordinary occupations were neglected or forgotten. He roamed from chamber to chamber with hurried, unequal and objectless step. The pallor of his countenance had assumed, if possible, a more ghastly hue, but the luminousness of his eye had utterly gone out. The once occasional huskiness of his tone was heard no more, and a tremulous quaver, as if of extreme terror, habitually characterized his utterance. There were times, indeed, when I thought his unceasingly agitated mind was laboring with some oppressive secret, to divulge which he struggled for the necessary courage. At times, again, I was obliged to resolve all into the mere inexplicable vagaries of madness, for I beheld him gazing upon vacancy for long hours, in an attitude of profoundest attention, as if listening to some imaginary sound. It was no wonder that his condition terrified, that it infected me. I felt creeping upon me, by slow yet certain degrees, the wild influences of his own fantastic yet impressive superstitions. It was especially upon retiring to bed late in the night of the 7th or 8th day after the placing of the Lady Madeline within the dungeon that I experienced the full power of such feelings. Sleep came not near my couch, while the hours waned and waned away. I struggled to reason off the nervousness which had dominion over me. I endeavored to believe that much, if not all of what I felt, was due to the bewildering influence of the gloomy furniture of the room. But my efforts were fruitless. An irrepressible tremor gradually pervaded my frame, and at length there sat upon my very heart an incubus of utterly causeless alarm. I heard a stealthy noise outside my chamber. Presently, I recognized Usher's footsteps. In an instant afterward he rapped, with a gentle touch, at my door and entered, bearing a lamp. His countenance was, as usual, cadaverously wan, but, moreover, there was a species of mad hilarity in his eyes, and evidently restrained hysteria in his whole demeanour. His air appalled me, but anything was preferable to the solitude which I had so long endured, and I even welcomed his presence as a relief. I could not sleep. Perhaps it is because of the storm.
I knew you were awake. Have you heard that?
Wind is howling.
No, it's not the wind. Have you not seen it? No. No, of course you have not. But... stay! You shall!
Roderick, what are you? The impetuous fury of the entering gust nearly lifted us from our feet. It was, indeed, a tempestuous yet sternly beautiful night, and one wildly singular in its terror and its beauty. You fool! You must not! You shall not behold this!
You must face it, Fitzwilliam. I know what keeps you awake every night, because it has been the same for me. It is haunting me, not only in my dreams, but also when I am wide awake. Hear it, now! It is scratching the windows, creeping under every stone, hiding behind the portraits that hang on the walls. It is calling us to retrieve what has been stolen, to restore the balance after such crimes. Father told me it would happen, but I did not want to listen. I was reckless back then, and now I must pay the consequences. You see, the source of this piercing evil is...
You speak nonsensical words, my friend. Hush now. These appearances, which bewilder you, are merely electronical phenomena, not uncommon. Or it may be that they have their ghastly origin in the rank miasma of the time. Let us close this casement. The air is chilling and dangerous to your frame.
Do not obliterate the truth, Fitzwilliam. I thought like you do once. But not anymore. Scientific jargon will not save us from what is coming.
What is coming? Roderick Usher, answer me.
It is nothing that you already know, but the stem of the Usher race, all-time honored as it is, had put forth at no period an enduring branch. It has always been a direct line of descent, an undeviating transmission from sire to son of the patrimony with the name, until Madeline and I were born, the first twins in the history of the Usher lineage, or so I was told.
Why are you telling me this? What is the point of your story?
You know Madeline and I since we were children. She was a healthy lass. The three of us used to run all the way up the hills of our dominion, and no trace of weariness hinted her lungs.
I remember, and I also recall that your parents were never fond of me.
Yes, they were very special concerning their privacy. That is the reason why we had such a secluded life. Anyway, when Madeline and I were 15, we parted. I went to the military school with you, and she was sent to a nunnery to complete her education. But when she returned, she was not the same.
What do you mean?
Madeline developed a sickness, a condition that gradually consumed her until she was unrecognizable. Back then, my parents stated that she had always had a feeble heart, although I did not remember that, because we were just kids. I did not believe a single word they said, and I could not do anything else to restore her health but being by her side. The physicians were clueless. Even I was about to marry, you see, and I had to cancel all the wedding plans just to be with Madeline. It pained me so much to watch her wasting away, and I could not bear a single moment without her.
Indeed, I recall your concern. You wrote me the most troubled letter when Madeline started her first treatments. But you also mentioned that the disease stagnated and she could lead a sort of normal life.
For many years she did, but when our parents died of old age, Madeline's condition aggravated. As for me, I took care of the state's responsibilities all by my own. When I was collecting my father's paperwork, I noticed something odd. A letter hidden away from the rest of the correspondence. It was sent from the nunnery, and it mentioned that my father's request had fulfilled.
What was his request?
Madeline Usher was poisoned during her stay in the nunnery. I read the word arsenic at the end of that dreadful letter.
And what did you do? Did you tell Madeline?
Oh, no, I could not possibly do that. Poisoned by her own parents, she would have been devastated. They used the dose enough to make her look like an ill person without killing her. Is it not wicked? I decided to hide the truth from her for her own sake.
Why on earth would your parents do such a horrible thing?
I did not know, but I was determined to investigate it thoughtfully. Do you remember my trip to the continent?
Yes, you did not allow me to come with you, even if I insisted. I thought that you simply took your grand tour duties too seriously.
Well, my real purpose was to conduct several inquiries about my family's past. I did not want to involve anyone else to avoid suspicions. What I found out was horrifying. When I was a child, I was told that Madeline and I were the only siblings in Usher's history, but it was a lie. I discovered birth and death certificates that stated otherwise. Oddly, there was always a premature death of one of the siblings, a sickness, an accident, leaving only one heir left to inherit the name and the properties. The first record of it dated back to 1665, when our ancestor Solomon Usher, whose brother died from the plague, made his fortune and built the house we are in now. The rest of the records were conveniently lost.
I am speechless, my friend. You should have told me everything before. I would have helped you. What do you want right now?
I do not know, but I will not be a part of it anymore. Once Madeline is properly buried, I will sell the house and get rid of the filth that stained Usher's name for so long.
Any of us will sleep tonight. We should move to the drawing room. It is quieter there. I could read something if you fancy.
Yes, lead the way, my friend.
The antique volume which I had taken up was the Mad Tryst of Sir Launcelot Canning, but I had called it a favourite of Usher's more in sad jest than in earnest. For in truth, there is little in its uncouth and unimaginative prolixity which could have had interest for the lofty and spiritual ideality of my friend. It was, however, the only book immediately at hand, and I indulged a vague hope that the excitement which now agitated the hypochondriac might find relief even in the extremeness of the folly which I should read. And Ethelred, fearing the rising of the tempest, uplifted his mace outright, and, with blows, made quickly room in the plankings of the door for his gauntleted hand. And now pulling therewith sturdily, he so cracked, and ripped, and tore all asunder, that the noise of the dry and hollow-sounding wood alaroomed and reverberated throughout the forest.
What was that? Have you heard that sound?
But the good champion Ethelred, now entering within the door, saw a dragon of a scaly and prodigious demeanour, and of a fiery tongue, which sat in guard before a palace of gold with a floor of silver. And Ethelred uplifted his mace, and struck upon the head of the dragon, which fell before him, and gave up his pesty breath, with a shriek so horrid and harsh, and withal so piercing, that Ethelred had fain to close his ears with his hands against the dreadful noise of it, the like whereof was never before heard.
You definitely should have heard that.
It is only a coincidence, Roderick. Our minds are playing a dirty trick on us. I should go out and check, just in case, if it makes you feel better.
No, no, no. Do not leave me, please. Stay by my side. Continue reading.
All right, where was I? Oh, I see. And now the champion, having escaped from the terrible fury of the dragon, bethinking himself of the brazen shield and of the breaking up of the enchantment which was upon him, removed the carcass from out of the way before him, and approached valorously over the silver pavement of the castle to where the shield was upon the wall, which in sooth tarried not for his full coming, but fell down at his feet upon the silver floor, with a mighty great and terrible ringing sound.
Now hear it? Yes, I hear it, and have heard it. Long, many minutes, many hours, many days have I heard it, yet I dared not. Oh, pity me, miserable wretch I am. I dared not speak.
Roderick, put yourself together.
We have put a living in the tomb. Said I not that my senses were acute? I now tell you that I heard her first feeble movements in the hollow coffin. I heard them many days ago, yet I dared not speak. And now, tonight, Ethelred! The breaking of the hermit's door, and the death cry of the dragon, and the clangor of the shield. Say rather, the rending of her coffin, and the grating of the iron hinges of her prison, and her struggles within the coppered archway of the vault.
This is nonsense. I saw her dead, you did too. She was not breathing, she had no pulse. We put the nails on her coffin. End of the story.
I now understand my ancestors' curse, but I am not as strong as them, for I shall perish. Oh, whither shall I fly? Will she not be here anon? Is she not hurrying to upbraid me for my haste? Have I not heard her footsteps on the stair? Do I not distinguish that heavy and horrible beating of her heart?
Calm down. I will go downstairs and check the vault if it eases your soul. Tomorrow, in daylight, you will see everything different, and we will laugh at our unfounded fears.
Madman! Do not dare leaving the room. Madman! I tell you, she now stands without the door.
It was the work of the rushing gust, but then, without those doors, there did stand the lofty and enshrouded figure of the Lady Madeline of Usher.
You buried me alive. Now you must pay for it, brother.
Oh no! Please leave me!
Madeline!
from that chamber and from that mansion I fled aghast. The storm was still abroad in all its wrath as I found myself crossing the old causeway. Suddenly there shot along the path a wild light, and I turned to see whence a gleam so unusual could why have issued. For the vast house and its shadow were alone behind me. The radiance was that of the full setting and blood-red moon, which now shone vividly through that once barely discernible feature, of which I have before spoken, extending from the roof of the building in a zigzag direction to the base. While I gazed, this feature rapidly widening, there came a fierce breath of the whirlwind. The entire orb of the satellite burst at once upon my sight. My brain reeled as I saw the mighty walls rushing asunder. There was a long, tumultuous, shouting sound like the voice of 1,000 waters. And the deep and dank tarn at my feet closed sullenly and silently over the fragments of the House of Usher. Many years have passed since that gruesome night. However, the figure of Madeline Usher, all in black and disarmingly beautiful, haunts me in my nightmares. I can still see the remains of the house reflecting on the profound waters of the lake. The shady woods that surrounded the house. The stony walls shattered into pieces. And, among the ruins, I always catch a glimmer of Madeline's bewitching face, smiling at me and diving in the depths of my soul.
I